Welcome to the Wandering Tangent Review. I'm BJ, with me is Jeff and Gary, and today we are going to talk about the 1982 sci-fi film Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan.
Yes, and today we are talking about Star Trek, which is
Yay,
a
more
good
Star
Star
Trek.
Trek.
Good
Finally.
Star Trek.
Is it good Star Trek?
I guess
Stay
we'll talk
tuned to
about
find
that.
out what our scores are.
Yeah.
Why about you all of a sudden? Yes.
Yes, Star Wars references are something that we'll eventually get into, especially since we're talking about Star Trek.
I am
Yeah.
halfway convinced you guys insist on recording these on Saturday as often as possible, just so you get tired BJ who just got home from work. I make weird jokes like my terrible Yoda impersonation. I guess I finally get to hear how bad my Yoda impersonation is. Impression?
It's not
Whatever.
bad. You know, Yoda impersonations and Arnold impersonations. Those are the two that anybody can do. It's amazing. Like, those two characters, anybody can do them. Miraculous.
Okay.
I'll take your word for it, Jeff.
Okay. All right.
Well,
So,
here we go, tangenting during the review again.
again.
Anyway.
So, Wrath of Khan. This is...
Rathacon. I am vaguely curious after reading a bit of history to see what admitted Star Trek purist Jeff thinks about the Wrath of Khan.
Yeah. Uh-huh. So, my score is that this... I'll give you the score in just a moment, but some background. This is probably one of my top favorite films of all time. I used to watch this film really late when I was young. It would be about bedtime during the weekend, and I would stay up an extra 2 hours just to get another watch of this film. And then I'd fall asleep, and it was awesome. It was like feeling content. And there's a lot of things in this film. There's a really great villain. There's character arcs. There's surprises. There's scenes that go from one to the other. There's horrific things that they have in to scare the audience. And the writing flows really well. And you guys are going to have all sorts of opportunities to dash my perfect image of this movie, I'm sure, during our long-form discussion. But I give this movie a 5, the top score of all time. And I note that when BJ gave a movie a 5, he gave it for the purpose of there's really nothing you would need to change in the movie. It is so good that it can just be the way it is, and it becomes a classic. And if you change things, it's almost like painting a mustache on the Mona Lisa. You just don't do it. You can't add to it anymore. It's good. It's there. It has good meaning and a good effect on the audience. And it's there. So this is an excellent watch. I think everybody should watch this at some point. Even if they hate Star Trek, they might still enjoy this classic 80s film. And that's all I got to say. Go ahead.
I don't know if I quite said that much about giving something a 5, but we'll roll with it, I guess. So I guess I'm next. I'm gonna give it a 4. Not, in my opinion, not quite a perfect movie, but still quite good. It is, has a good plot, has good characters, has a good villain, like Jeff said, moves along at a fair clip, which, after Star Trek motion picture, is quite the upgrade.
Okay.
I'm sure there will be more discussion about that in our long-form discussion. But yeah, it's really solid movie all around. I couldn't quite give it a 5 because it's, for me personally, it's not a movie that I can like watch at like a complete drop of a hat. So it's not like 100% perfect, but it is still pretty dang good. For most reasons that Jeff said, although maybe toned down just a touch. So yeah, no real problems with the movie, but just not quite perfect, but still quite good.
Okay. Yep, and we'll go into the detail in our next recording, which will be released at the same time. The long form discussion. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
And Gary's gonna give it a 0.5 just to be completely contrarian.
There's going to be a 0.5 somehow, right?
Okay. All right. Part of me wanted to say a 0.5 because that would make Jeff happier and BJ more angry. But so I'm going to have to give this a 3. Now, okay.
Which is a good score.
It's a good score. I liked this movie. It's a good movie. But there's a few, it feels like there was some inconsistencies that we'll get into later. And
yeah,
it just, there was parts of it. Like I wasn't going into this with the nostalgia. I mean, I kind of had seen this movie before and I enjoyed it, but I kind of tried to go into this with a fresh set of eyes. And then I look at other works that I think, that I think highly of and whatnot. And I compare this to them and I'm like, okay, this, and how does this compare? And it's good. It's really good. And I can't really, I have to nitpick to get to problems. And there's other elements of it that I was just like kind of thrown by, but, yeah, we'll get into all that later.
I mean, if you have a general nitpicks, this is the review.
It just feels like, I mean...
Yeah, well, I'll have some nitpicks to discuss too. Like two of them, I believe. Yes, so there are some wonderful, interesting nitpicks. But do the nitpicks, do they still fall into the vibe of the... We'll have to talk all about that.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that when we get into certain things. And I just have to give that a 3. I would give it a 3.5, and that would make BJ angry, and that probably still wouldn't please Jeff. So I'm just going to settle with the 3. Sorry to disappoint BJ. I did not give it a 0.5.
My sad face.
Okay.
All right.
It's the first time since Christmas Gary did not give something a 0.5. Anyway.
Well, it had to happen eventually.
That was our review. Maybe someday we will learn to actually review something other than just say, yeah, I'm going to give it blank score for a reason. Yeah.
Well, it's hard because if we mention anything, it's going to lead into a long tangent where we are just on edge, ready to talk about these in more detail. But we all agree this is a good movie that people should watch, especially its sci-fi ability, all of it, all that.
Maybe we need to like record our reviews individually and then like anyway.
Perhaps
that's not something to talk about during a review. That's something to talk about probably not on the podcast. So yes.
We are always trying to invent different things.
If you want to hear more of us yammering, you can jump on over to our long form discussion. It is longer and formier. I use all my good humor in my Yoda impression early on, so we're in deep trouble, folks. How much trouble? Join us in the long form discussion to find out. An awkward silence to end the review. See you, everybody.